Hey cuties, what's up? We're back with some more reactions after dark, and we of course gonna be watching He Waited at the Crime Scene for 20 years until he caught the killer, a Namiko Takaba case, obviously by Dark Asia with Megan. Of course, we're continuing on with Dark Asia with Megan a week. I saw this and I was like, okay, this sounds like crazy, right? Also, it might be one of the few stories we actually get a resolution, right? Because, again, a lot of these, the person is still being tried, or they haven't been found, or in last video's case, they get away with it, right? Because they can't find enough evidence to pin it on them, so they just get away with it for free. Like last time was like the worst case scenario, right? They killed somebody to take his money and probably get insurance money on top of it, right? And then were able to get away with it, right? So they successfully got away with murder and becoming rich. So it's like, ugh, that sucks. But this one seems we might actually have like a crazy revenge story, thankfully. But yeah, I don't really have any QT today. Obviously, this video might have been late, but I think it's actually gonna be fine, right? Because these videos are really short. And they're sped up. But most of the videos were going to be late. My NTE video is probably going to be late today too because I had to go out and do something today, so I was late recording all this stuff. Though we could have like a second just to have like a laugh, right? I don't know if anyone here has heard the term quirked up white girl before. And you're probably like, what did this man just say? But I just think that's a funny term of being quirked up. But the bus driver today was just that, I want to say. Because when I got on, usually when you get on, you give them money, they give you a transfer and whatnot. They'll ask you, hey, do you want to transfer? Do you need a transfer? Or they'll just give you one. They won't even say it. They'll just print one out for you immediately and not even like ask if you need it or not. But when I got up there, she said, was it like, may I offer you a transfer, with her hands out as if she was like, offering me something. Like, I just thought that was like silly. Like, okay, quirked up white girl being quirky on the bus, question mark. Because like I don't think I've seen or heard anyone act like that. It's just either, do you need a transfer? Yes, here you go. Not Renaissance fair offering me something, like as if they're a waiter or something, right? So that's all I have to talk about today. We still have a lot of like hater stuff to talk about, but again, I save that for Stephanie videos. So that's all I can really say today for QT. We can go ahead and get into the video now. Again, I hope this is a revenge story. Though the issue with that actually is, if it is a revenge story and this man finds the killer and kills him, now he's probably going to go to jail, right? For committing murder, even if it was against the person who took his family, I'm going to assume, away from him. Because there's a picture. The thumbnail has a picture of a woman, child, and a man. So I'm assuming the woman and child, something happened to them, and he's getting revenge on the person who did it to them.
On November 13th, 1999, at around 2:30 in the afternoon, the body of a 32-year-old woman named Namiko Takaba was found inside her home in Nagoya, Japan, by her landlord and his wife. Namiko was lying with her legs in the hallway and her torso inside the living room.
Okay, so the wife is gone, and did they just say like she's in the door frame, or they literally mean she's cut in half?
Her neck had been severely cut, with some sources reporting it was almost completely severed from her body. Blood had pooled around her, with visible trails running through the hallway, and additional blood drips gathered near the entryway of the home. The landlord and his wife, horrified by what they'd walked into, immediately called 119. Paramedics arrived and pronounced Namiko dead at the scene, then contacted her husband Satoru to let him know that she had passed away. But nothing could have prepared him for the reality of what had happened.
Where's the baby?
Today we're talking about a case that stumped Japanese investigators for over 2 decades and became one of Japan's most haunting unsolved murders. This is the case of Namiko Takaba.
Again, like, what happened to the baby, though? We're saying this about the wife, but where's the child? Question mark.
When investigators arrived on the scene, they began going through the apartment and found something that made an already terrible situation even harder to process. Namiko's young son, Kohei, was just sitting in the kitchen. He was untouched and physically
Okay, so son's alive, just hopefully young enough to not be traumatized forever. Is it 2?
processed.
How old?
Namiko's young son, Kohei, was just sitting in the kitchen. He was untouched
I don't know why I thought it was 2 years old, but
and physically unharmed, but he must have heard everything that happened to his mother. Shortly after, Satoru arrived. He had been told that his wife had passed away due to some
how old is the child? Because I need to know if this is going to affect them. Right? I mean, obviously it's going to affect them, but there's knowing something happened and having been aware of it having happened by being there, right? But if he's young enough to not keep any of this information, right? Because you don't really retain anything pre-5. You know, most people don't, I think, retain most information before 4 or 5 or so. So if he's younger than that, that's actually, you would hope that he's younger, right? Because, I mean, if he's not going to have a mom for the rest of his life, at least he won't also have the trauma of having watched it happen. Even if he did watch it happen, it's not going to be saved into his memory.
some kind of medical emergency. Nothing that clearly communicated what was actually waiting for him at home. He was kept outside while investigators worked the scene. It was only afterwards that
Does it give his son back?
paramedics pulled Satoru aside and told him the truth, that his wife had likely been murdered. The crime itself made no sense. Nothing about the family really stood out. The family lived in a regular apartment. Satoru Takaba was 43 years old and worked as a real estate agent at a tower condominium. Namiko was 32, and there isn't much known about her activities outside the home. Their son, Kohei, was just 2 years old at the time.
Okay. I don't know why I said 2 years old, by the way, but he was in fact 2 years old. Well, good, because he's not going to remember any of this. Question mark. Like maybe his subconscious will have trauma from it, but he won't actually remember anything that had happened. But as usual, you would think, okay, well, they're going to suspect the husband, right? First off, though, he did show up to the crime scene after being called and said, hey, your wife's dead. So I don't know if they're immediately just going to suspect him or what. Or not. Because obviously he didn't do it, right? He's going to sit there and wait for this guy for 20 years.
By all accounts, they were a normal, happy family. And neighbors described them warmly. They greeted people kindly, generally kept to themselves, and weren't shown to have any problems with anyone. So what could have led to something like this? Let's go back to the morning of November 13th. Koi had been sick since the day before, so that morning, Namiko had planned to take him to the hospital. At around 11 a.m., after she dropped Satoru off at work, she took Koi to get checked out, and then they returned home at around 11:50. Neighbors noted that the sound of a television could be heard coming from the apartment at around that time. Then, at around 1 p.m., a resident of the building heard what they described as a fight, or maybe the sound of someone moving furniture, followed by the sound of footsteps running down the stairs. They didn't think much of it at the time. The 2 other people present in the building at the time also reported hearing a loud noise, like a large closet being dragged or moved, again followed by what sounded like someone running downstairs.
Sure. You could argue people might think it's just them moving furniture around, moving it up and down the stairs, who knows, but...
Between noon and 2 p.m., a friend of Namiko's called the house multiple times and got no answer. At 2:30 p.m., the landlord and his wife came by the Takaba apartment. They brought some produce from their garden to share. The landlord's wife had called ahead, but didn't get an answer, so she figured they should just stop by anyway. They rang the doorbell, they knocked, but nothing. The apartment was completely silent. The wife tried the door and found it unlocked, so
I thought that she was in the doorway. I'm guessing not the main doorway.
she stepped inside and found Namiko lying dead on the floor. When police and paramedics examined the scene, here's what they found. Namiko was lying face down. She had multiple wounds on her neck that appeared to have been made by a sharp blade. There were also wounds on her hands, consistent with defensive injuries.
I was going to say she was trying to defend herself.
She had tried to stop the attack. The cause of death, according to the paramedics, was excessive blood loss. Based on her movements that day and witness timelines, investigators estimated she had died somewhere between noon and 1 p.m., with a more precise estimate pointing to around 12:30 p.m. And there was no sign of a robbery. Nothing appeared to have been taken. The apartment hadn't been ransacked. The TV was on and tuned to what was apparently Namiko's favorite drama. On the kotatsu, in front of the TV, there was a cup of noodles, still soaking in hot water, and a bowl of miso soup Koi had left over from breakfast. A vacuum cleaner was sitting in front of the front door, suggesting Namiko had been cleaning when her killer showed up.
Yeah, I was going to wonder if the vacuum cleaner was even still on. Like, was it still on? Was she actively cleaning, or...?
The blood trail ran from near the front door, through the hallway, toward the bathroom, where blood had been found in the sink, leading investigators to believe the perpetrator had washed their hands before leaving.
Is this real blood? Like, are we allowed to show blood on YouTube? Now, video's not age restricted down there, so I assume it's fine. Maybe I shouldn't be hanging on this
Now, here's
image
where
at least.
physical evidence starts to build a picture of who the killer might have been. Investigators found blood stains and shoe prints at the scene that didn't belong to Namiko. They were located near the doorstep and close to her body. They tested the blood that was suspected to belong to the perpetrator, likely from a wound Namiko inflicted while fighting back. The blood was identified as type B. Based on the DNA evidence, investigators believe the perpetrator was a woman in her 40s or 50s at the time.
I was not expecting that. I don't know if he's going to get revenge then, right? Because would he... I mean, it's your wife, right? Do you really care if they're a man or a woman? If they take someone you care about away from you? Question mark. You'd still probably try to get revenge. It's just immediately I'm like, okay, oh, it's a woman. You can't do anything. That's just my first instinct is like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, it's a woman. I can't do anything to her.
The murder. As for the shoe prints, they were identified as coming from a pair of Korean-made women's shoes, size 8 with a heel. But there was more. The blood trail didn't stop at the apartment. Despite the perpetrator washing her hands in the bathroom, drops of blood were found in the hallway, on the stairs, and in the parking lot of the building.
That makes sense. If it's an active wound, it might just keep dripping out everywhere.
The trail continued away from the apartment and extended through the surrounding area, eventually leading investigators toward Inao Park, roughly 500 meters away. 2 witnesses reported seeing a woman in the area. The first said she was wearing a pink top. The second witness described seeing a woman in black, standing on the road in front of Inao Park, clutching her hand as if she was injured. And she was apparently waiting for a car to stop. The 2 witnesses may have given different descriptions of her clothing, but their descriptions of the woman's physical appearance were consistent.
Didn't the friend call several times? On top of the landlord? Question mark. Are we going to say this is a friend because it's a woman and she's in her 40s or so? So could it have just been a friend of this woman and they got into a fight and then for some reason she did that to her? I feel like that would make sense, but I don't know.
At the park itself, investigators found traces of blood, suggesting that someone had tried to wash blood from their hands. From there, it appeared that the suspect had headed north into a residential area in the direction of Kita Ward. Given that she was presumably covered in, or at least marked with blood, and walking through a neighborhood in broad daylight, it was quite unusual that she hadn't attracted more attention. Back inside the apartment, one more piece of evidence turned up that investigators hadn't expected. On the doorknob, there were liquid remnants of a probiotic drink, similar to Yakult. The Takaba family didn't consume that kind of beverage, so it stood out. And on the kitchen table, right where Koei had been sitting alone, investigators found a half-finished bottle of one of those drinks that appeared to have been brought into the apartment by someone else.
Really? She just came in there drinking that? Again, I feel like it was a friend or someone who knew this person. I mean, that's always the case, right? It's someone who's close to the person, which is why they always suspect the spouse. But again, I think it's a friend. Was invited freely into the place. She was drinking something in the house, probably grabbed a knife from the kitchen or something, and then scuffled.
When they traced the serial number on the bottle, they found it had been sold in the Nishimikawa area, about 35 kilometers from the crime scene. Investigators later concluded the perpetrator may have used the disguise of being a drink salesperson, someone going door to door, as a way to gain access to the apartment without raising suspicion.
I would have just assumed it's a friend who just brought the drink with her.
It would explain why Namiko may have opened the door, and why she may not have seen the threat coming. So, with blood DNA, shoe prints, witness sightings, a beverage traced to a specific region, and a solid timeline of events.
Yeah, it's crazy that this took 20 years, right? You have all this evidence, overwhelming evidence, and you couldn't catch him.
Why couldn't police catch the killer? A few things worked against the investigation from the start. The police temporarily suspended their dog tracking operation on the night of the incident. The stated reason was frustration with the media, which had been aggressively pursuing the case and attempting to gain access to the bereaved family, including 2-year-old Koei. And heavy rain that evening also washed away the bloodstains at the park and erased the perpetrator's footprints, eliminating a significant portion of the initial physical trail. The police put 100,000 officers on the case and interviewed 5,000 people, but they found no suspects. With no clear answers, various theories circulated over the years about who did it and why. One of the more widely discussed possibilities was that the killer had come to the wrong apartment, that Namiko had been killed by mistake. At the time of the murder, a resident with a different family name lived next door, but that name was written using the same kanji, or Chinese characters, as Takaba. For someone unfamiliar with Japanese, or even for someone whose kanji reading wasn't solid, the 2 nameplates could easily have been confused.
Sure, still weird to think that though, as a situation.
After robbery was ruled out, investigators considered that it was the result of a grudge or personal motive. They interviewed everyone connected to the Takaba family and went through every relationship and interaction the couple had. Nothing suspicious came up. Everyone who knew them described them positively, to the extent that one investigator remarked that there was no couple less hated than Satoru and Namiko. So, at a certain point, investigators moved away from the grudge theory as well, leaving the motive genuinely unclear. After the murder, Satoru and Koei moved in with Satoru's parents in another part of the city, and it's understandable for someone to move after such a traumatic event. But Satoru did something that most people don't, or can't. He kept renting the apartment where Namiko had died. He was determined to maintain the crime scene as it was, in the hope that something there might one day help to catch his wife's killer.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to cost a lot of money, right? Like, keeping that rented for 20 years on top of the house you're already paying. But I mean, if you're rich, right, that's no problem. I mean, if you have a good job is what I mean by that. It's no problem, but it is a detriment to your lifestyle.
It cost him significantly, around 20 million yen, which is equivalent to almost 126,000 US dollars over time. But he kept it. He didn't disturb a single thing. Namiko's CD collection stayed where it was. The calendar on the wall remained on November 1999. Satoru also went to the apartment twice a week, every week, even 20 years after the murder. He said that when he walked inside, he felt like time had stopped. He didn't want to erase what was there, partly for his own memory of Namiko, and partly for Koei's sake. And understanding Satoru's plight, the landlord even lowered the rent on the property for him. Satoru
I mean, that's nice, right? Because you're not even using the water, right? So it's not even like water has to be paid or anything. It's just, or even electricity, right? It's just, you're just occupying the space. Or just owning the space even, not even occupying it.
largely stayed out of the media. When he did appear for interviews, he made a point of not crying on camera, and asked camera crews not to film him or Koei in tears. He said he didn't want to give the perpetrator the satisfaction of seeing the damage she'd caused. He wasn't going to let her feel like she'd won. So he smiled, he laughed when it was appropriate. He kept himself composed publicly, and he put his energy elsewhere. Satoru became the representative secretary of an organization called Sora no Kai.
What, skies something? Kai. What does Kai mean? I don't remember. Sora no Kai. I should know what Kai is, just, I don't know. I mean, Kai can be used for buying something, but I don't think that's what it's going to be, right? Sora no Kai. I have no clue. You know, skies, stars, whatever. It has a meaning to that name, is what I'm trying to say.
Group of bereaved families of murder victims, and has spent years supporting other families in similar situations, particularly those connected to unsolved cases. Along with other members of Sora no Kai, he fought to have Japan's statute of limitations abolished for murder cases. Satoru was up against a ticking clock. At the time of Namiko's death, the statute of limitations for murder was just 15 years, meaning the statute of limitations for her case would expire in 2014. Discovering her killer after that time had passed would mean that whoever she was, and whatever her motive, she would walk free. Satoru fought tirelessly to prevent that from happening, and eventually, in 2010, the statute of limitations for murder in Japan was abolished.
Okay, does that mean there's just no statute of limitations? If you murder someone and they find you 50 years later, they got you?
On February 5th, 2020, the Aichi Prefectural Police announced a 3 million yen reward for any information leading to the arrest of the perpetrator.
They actually have like pictures. I'm guessing that's like what she would have looked like, and then this is what she looked like potentially 20 years ago, and now this could be what she looks like now.
Despite the reward, the witness accounts, the physical evidence, and more than 2 decades of investigation, the case remained open. No arrest had been made until 2025. Police had been looking at several people of interest over the years, though not all of them had been willing to cooperate fully with investigators. One of those people was a woman named Kumiko Yasufu. She was a part-time clerk at a local supermarket, and she had gone to high school with Satoru.
Okay, well, knew the person.
For years, she denied any involvement in the case, but at the same time, she declined to provide DNA samples to investigators.
I was going to say, is it like jealousy? I don't know if it was going to be like that. That is a thought, right, with these kind of things. Was she jealous of her, right? Because she got the guy and she didn't? Question mark.
Then on October 30th,
I don't know if it's going to be that kind of situation, right?
but at the same time, she declined to provide DNA samples to investigators. Then on October 30th, 2025, something changed. Kumiko approached police officers who were distributing awareness posters at a train station, and she told them she was willing to give a DNA sample to help with the investigation. And the results came back as a match. It was her blood that had been found at the scene. After more than 25 years, investigators had their perpetrator. Kumiko admitted to what she had done. She
Why, though? Did he find her there? Like, did she just show up and he confronted her and then she turned herself in?
told investigators that in the time since the murder, she had lived with a persistent anxiety, particularly around the anniversary of the incident each year. She described going through stretches where she couldn't eat, she couldn't stop ruminating, couldn't function normally. Then, in August of 2025, she got the sense that investigators may have already identified her and that an arrest was coming. And that feeling was apparently what pushed her to come forward in October and give the sample herself. So why did she kill Namiko? The answer traced back to a reunion. In June 1999, just a few months before the murder, a high school reunion was held. Kumiko attended. She was known
Okay, and did y'all, like, have some sort of, like, beef or what?
as a quiet and reserved person. But she had been in the same sports club as Satoru back in school. And according to people who knew her at the time, she had feelings for him.
I mean, I was assuming it was going to be something like that, but, like, really? That's it? That's why?
At the reunion, people went around and shared updates about their lives. When it was Hatoru's turn, he talked about his marriage, that he had married a woman 11 years younger than himself and had 2 children with her. But that the
Oh, 2? We only know about the one boy.
marriage ended in divorce, and that he had since remarried a woman named Namiko,
Okay, so new person. So he has 3 children then.
with whom he had a son, Kofi. He also mentioned that his eldest daughter from the first marriage had passed away 10 years earlier. According to what Kumiko told police, her stated reason for killing Namiko was that she wanted Satoru to understand what it was like to raise a child alone.
Huh? What? What are you talking about? What?
This daughter from the first marriage had passed away 10 years earlier. According to what Kumiko told police, her stated reason for killing Namiko was that she wanted Satoru to understand what it was like to raise a child alone.
What? It's not even... Well, she didn't like him, right? But what do you mean? That doesn't... I have never heard that as a reason before. Like, what do you mean you got rid of her because you wanted him to understand what it felt like to raise a child alone? What? Like, what did he do to you? Did he get rid of your husband if she had one? Question mark? That didn't happen, so... I mean, I would be like flabbergasted if I was him. Like, I don't know what I would say to that. It's like that's the reasoning. Like, even something as dumb as, oh, she liked him, and if she can't have him, nobody can, right? Yandere stuff. Like, even that would be like, whatever. More understandable than, I want you to know what it feels like to raise a child alone. So let me get rid of your wife. Like, what? I don't know what to say to that.
Whether Satoru's comments at the reunion, particularly about the circumstances around his first daughter's death, sparked something in Kumiko that she interpreted as him not taking parenthood seriously enough, or whether there were other feelings at play that she hasn't fully articulated remains somewhat unclear. But that was the motive she gave. Kumiko had seemingly no feelings about Namiko at all. In fact, she had never even met Namiko before the day she killed her. Namiko was just a victim of falling in love with the wrong person. As for how she knew where to find Namiko, there is a theory that Kumiko followed Satoru after the reunion to find out where he actually lived, though that has not been confirmed. The disguise she used, presenting herself as a drink salesperson to gain access to the building without raising suspicion, showed premeditation. The beverage found in the apartment, the one that was traced back to the
But she actually did do that.
Namikawa area, 35 kilometers away, showed that she had thought it all through. So what happened to Kumiko? As of now, the case is in the legal process, with hearings and trials ahead. Whether she will explain her motive in more detail or tell another story entirely is yet to be seen. When Satoru was asked about Kumiko after the arrest, he said he genuinely had no idea why she would do something like this. He remembered her as being someone kind. That part, he said, he still couldn't make sense of. The thing that really stands out about this case for me is the power of love. Satoru was so full of love for his wife that he eventually would not stop until the killer was found. He rented the apartment for over 20 years to preserve the evidence and maintain the memories of Namiko for himself and his son. Even given the amount of time that had passed since her murder, he still visited the apartment twice a week. He fought.
Yeah, the son's like 22 after that, right? So, son's getting up there. Also, until he caught the killer is not accurate. I was thinking, okay, he's going to sit there 20 years. She finally comes back, to the scene of the crime, and he catches her. But no, she just turned herself in out of like guilt. Well, not necessarily guilt, but anxiety.
Fought to have the statute of limitations for murder abolished in Japan, and he supported other surviving family members of people who had been murdered.
Though, granted, he was able to get the thing abolished, right? So there's that, right? Because they allowed her to be arrested finally. Because if she turned herself in, there's nothing to do, right? Statues, right?
Before Namiko died, he told Satoru that she was the happiest she'd ever been. The two of them had just signed a contract for a new condominium and were planning on having a second child. That future was stolen from them. But despite that, Satoru showed his love and dedication. On the 27th anniversary of Namiko's death, after the eventual arrest of Kumiko, Satoru said, "I think Namiko will forgive me now that I've come this far." That is all for today. Thanks for watching.
Well, that was that. Unfortunate that it wasn't a revenge story, because I would have wanted him to get revenge on her. But I mean, she turned herself in. She's going to go to jail for whatever life she has left, though. He's already, I don't know, 60, 70 years old now. But at least he knows who did it, and they're going to get punished. And he's, been taking care of his son with seemingly like the best he can, right? This entire time. So at least there's that. But again, I don't know what to say to that reasoning, right? I have never heard something like that, and might be the craziest, dumbest reason. Probably not, right? I probably heard worse. It's just the most unique thing I've ever heard, and it's not even a reason, right? None of these are reasons. I wanted you to feel what it feels like to take care of someone by yourself. Like, what are you talking about? And is she taking care of somebody by herself? Is she taking care of a child by herself? Or is she just spouting nonsense? Like, I don't know what to say to that. That is just, I don't know. I don't understand that. I think that's going to be it for today. I don't know what we're going to be watching tomorrow, because I have to go and find something that seems interesting for us to talk about. Again, not exact. This one wasn't even what I thought it was going to be. I thought he was going to sit there for keeping an eye on the house for 20 years and find them and catch them and maybe even kill them. Right? Didn't happen. So almost you could argue that the title's a little bit clickbait, but not really. We're not even going to go there. But yeah, we'll see what we watch tomorrow. Hopefully Stephanie uploads something soon so I can talk about that. Talk about all the hater stuff that I want to talk about. Yeah, cuties, thanks for watching. Remember to buy my stickers, hit the becoming a member, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, so we can watch some and subscribers. And don't forget, we have a throne now as well. And shout out to the members, EmmyStarr, RaleyDrew, and alexgkiller 880. Yeah, cuties, so thanks for watching. Tune into the next episode. I'll like, subscribe, hype, and comments. You know the do. See ya.